I am meaningfully withdrawing my energy from people, places, and things around me to focus on myself and my healing journey. That is a text I've been sending to a bunch of friends for about the past 6 months, and you're welcome to borrow it if you're also on a healing journey and you're trying to figure out what is the language I can use to set this boundary with love with people. I had an aha moment around it this week when I was reading from this old beaten up diary from my senior year of college. And I want to share that aha moment. So I'm going to read what I wrote in 2003, March 25th, and then I'll add some of my reflection from now. Sometimes I just want to die. I want to be with my mom. I don't want to live without her. There's too much pain in this life and not enough joy to make up for it. Then people ask the questions about tests and deadlines and future plans, but I don't want a future without her. It's that simple. These people are absolute idiots for asking me, what are you doing this summer? I want to tell them, working on trying to piece my life back together after my mother's death. There's no prize for surviving, for getting up when you wanted to just sleep forever. So when someone asks me about next year, I'm going to say, I need time to rest and integrate my mother's passing into my new life without her. If I can't get right with her, with my God and myself, I very well could wake up in 5 years without having taken one step in a positive direction for my life. And what's scary is the last 4 years I've spent that way. I might get a little emotional, sorry. So my mom passed away this summer. Well, she got sick the summer before my senior year, and then she passed away in October of my senior year of college, and we buried her, and I went back to Stanford, I think a day or two later, and just tried to carry on like, I guess everything was fine, but obviously nothing was. And there was a grief support group, but I definitely felt like I shouldn't have been at school at that time. And Stanford was 3,000 miles away from where I grew up in Albany, New York, and 3,000 miles away from family. And I did have a best friend whose mom passed of cancer, also like mine, a month after my mom passed away. So I had one person who kind of understood what I was feeling, but I mostly felt like I shouldn't have been there. And nobody seemed to understand, and I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't do well in class. I had to go to the Disability Resources Center and get like time and a half and sit in a room by myself and take tests. I got a tutor and all of these things just to like what felt like barely graduate, which at the time felt like a huge success for me because it just was a really, really hard year. And I remember feeling like people were not thoughtful. I had friends getting like Rhodes scholarships and big, huge consulting jobs and saying they were getting ready to like travel the world and do all these things. And I was like just barely trying to graduate, and I had nothing set up for the summer after school because I had nothing set up for a life without my mom. And roughly 20 years to the date that people were asking me that question, what are you doing this summer? People were asking me that question again in 2023 when I had been diagnosed with breast cancer. I got my breast cancer diagnosis in February, and I had my lumpectomy in April, and I had people by June asking me, what are you doing this summer? And I remember being so quizzical about it because I hadn't even had radiation yet. And people were like asking me, so what are you going to do for fun? Like, what's cracking? Where are you traveling? I know you always know where the parties are at. And it occurred to me this week, reading this, that the thing I knew I needed to do, which was to meaningfully withdraw from people and focus on myself and my grief and my healing, was something I actually didn't really give myself 20 plus years ago when I really needed it. And I've been feeling this calling to do it now, largely because it did occur to me in 2023 that some of the same people that were asking me what seemed like an asinine question in college were asking me that question again in 2023. And that people just they really weren't capable of being thoughtful, of being reflective, of being introspective, of being truly compassionate. Like I've mentioned before in my other videos, I didn't have a single friend even stop by to visit me when I was in treatment. I suppose because maybe they'd seen me go through difficult things before and they're like, well, she seemed fine. Why wouldn't she be fine now? I even had a friend, I remember a friend who did her best to kind of call and check in from time to time. But there was a time that she reached out to ask if I would help run a fundraising campaign for another friend. And I had to remind her that I was in treatment. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry, dear. You know, when my mom had cancer, everything was just fine for her. I just assumed it would be fine for you. I'm like, first of all, your mom is your mom and I'm me. But fine enough that you're reaching out to ask if I'm going to take on a project. Like, does rest factor into your thoughtfulness around what I might need at this time? And that's one of my most thoughtful friends. So yeah, I'm giving myself now what I didn't give myself before, what I've needed to give myself for decades. And I'm letting everyone else who's similarly middle-aged like me lean into themselves in their own lives and not require me to like hold space, to co-regulate with them, to go to events with them, and to check in with them. And trusting that if these people are actually friends and supporters, which I realize some of them might not be, that they will hold their space, they will send me good vibes and blessings, and they'll let me do my thing. Now, I will say that what I've noticed with some of the friends that I send this message to is some of them flip out, right? Because they're so used to me setting myself aside regardless of what happens, even if it's cancer, that while they didn't react with alarm when I was sick, right, they are beginning to manufacture emergencies and try to hijack my nervous system and get a reaction out of me and get me to communicate when I'm actually just taking time for myself now while I'm still basically in recovery. And yes, years after your cancer treatment, you will essentially still be in recovery, trying to build back your life emotionally, psychologically, financially, and physically. I've had friends get on conference calls to ask what's going on with me. I've had family members do that. I had my eldest sister, who seemed quite fine and never shed a tear when I was in treatment, literally call me and melt down over the phone over my decision to stop getting on family Zoom calls. We were having them every Sunday, and I had decided I wasn't going to join anymore because I was usually never on the agenda anyway, and I was getting tired of my father's shenanigans, and I have since gone no contact with my dad, and that's a whole nother story. So it's also been fascinating watching how people react to me literally just using my free will to focus on myself and heal in a way I never really gave myself an opportunity to do. And so that means I don't know how many of these people are going to be in the next highest timeline of my life. They may be relationships I have to let go of, and for me, that's okay. Because long story short, I do want to learn the lesson of my mom, you know, somebody who suffered in silence, put herself and her health last, died in our family system, and then is now on my spirit team helping to guide me in my life. And I ultimately do think that my own bout with cancer is going to end up saving my life in the long term, because I really didn't understand it in 2003. I didn't understand the lesson that my mother's death was supposed to be teaching me, and that and my reaction to it, my inability to even grieve that year. So anyway, if you're on a healing journey like me, I am sending you solidarity, hugs. May your pillow always be cold. May people in your life show an interest in leaning into you and supporting you through whatever difficulty you're going through. And if they don't, well then, like me, I wish you healing for the need for that external validation, and to really lean into the inner validation of knowing you have a purpose, path, and mission. You're here to live it out, and you have the free will to make it so.